Have you ever felt like a passenger in your own life? You wake up with the best intentions, promising yourself that today will be different. Today you will focus. Today you will be disciplined. Today you will finally break that cycle of procrastination or that habit that drains your energy. But by the afternoon, the old patterns have returned like an uninvited shadow. You find yourself scrolling mindlessly, reaching for the comfort of a vice, or speaking to yourself with a harshness you'd never use on a friend. You feel the heavy weight of self-sabotage sinking into your chest, a familiar and exhausting guest. Why is it that we, with all our modern apps, dopamine detoxes, and productivity hacks, find ourselves so deeply, fundamentally stuck? The answer doesn't lie in a new software update or a more expensive planner. It lies in the soil. Centuries ago, our ancestors, the farmers, the keepers of the land, the watchers of the seasons, understood a fundamental truth about human nature that we have lost in the noise of the digital age. They didn't see habits as data points, brain chemistry, or willpower tests. They saw the human soul as an ager, a field. In the ancient rural wisdom of the Mediterranean, the rolling hills of the Celtic lands, and the quiet valleys of the East, there was a deep understanding that a habit is simply a path worn into the earth. If you walk the same way every day, the grass dies, the soil hardens, and eventually, the path chooses you. This is the old field wisdom. It treats the human experience not as a machine to be fixed, but as an ecosystem to be tended. In our modern world, we try to change ourselves through brute force. We treat our minds like computers. We try to delete bad habits and install new ones overnight. But a machine doesn't grow. It only functions or breaks. A field, however, is alive. It is stubborn, it is beautiful, and it follows laws that cannot be rushed. Rural wisdom teaches us that you cannot simply delete a bad habit any more than a farmer can delete a drought or cancel a weed. You must work with the biology of your life. While the modern world demands instant transformation, the old field wisdom teaches us the art of the long season. Imagine for a moment waking up and feeling no internal friction. Imagine looking at the thistles of your self-sabotage, the anxiety, the avoidance, the addictions, and knowing exactly how to compost them into fuel for your growth. Imagine your mind being as clear as a well-tended orchard, where your actions align with your values, not because you are fighting yourself, but because you have cultivated a landscape where goodness grows naturally. Imagine the peace of a life where you are no longer your own greatest obstacle. Today, we are going to dive deep into the ancient rural system for reclaiming your internal land. This is a comprehensive journey through the philosophy of the soil, the psychology of the fence, and the ritual of the harvest. We will move beyond superficial tips and into a profound shift in how you perceive your own struggle. Stay with me until the end of this journey, because I will share a specific soil test challenge, a reflective practice that will reveal the exact root of your most stubborn habit. To break a habit, we must first understand its geography. In the ancient rural mind, the mind was not a black box. It was a physical space. When we talk about self-sabotage, we are usually dealing with what the old farmers called compacted earth. Consider the texture of soil. If it is aerated, dark and moist, it receives seeds and water with ease. But if it is trodden down by heavy machinery or constant, repetitive footsteps, it becomes like concrete. This is what happens to our brains when we live in a state of constant stress and repetitive negative loops. The soil of our subconscious hardens. When we try to plant a new habit, like waking up early or practicing meditation, the seed just sits on the surface. It cannot penetrate the hard crust of our existing patterns. Ancient rural wisdom suggests that the first step in breaking any habit is not action, but observation. A master gardener does not enter a new plot of land and start digging immediately. They sit. They watch where the water pools. They see which side gets the morning sun. They identify the volunteers, the plants that grow without being asked. Self-sabotage is often just a misguided attempt by your internal land to find water in a drought of self-care. If you are working 12 hours a day and your bad habit is eating junk food at night, that isn't a flaw in your character, it is your soil trying to get a quick hit of energy because it is parched. Modern psychology focuses heavily on the I. I must change, I am weak, I am failing. Old field wisdom shifts the focus to the environment. If a crop is failing, the farmer doesn't blame the plant. He looks at the pH of the soil, the drainage, and the pests. When we stop blaming our willpower and start looking at our internal ecosystem, the shame begins to lift. And shame, as any old soul will tell you, is the most acidic substance you can pour on your field. It kills the very nutrients you need to change. In the rural tradition, ploughing is perhaps the most violent and transformative act. It involves a blade tearing into the earth, flipping it upside down, and exposing the dark, damp underbelly to the sun. It looks like destruction, but it is the prerequisite for life. In our personal development, Arari Mentis, ploughing the mind, represents the habit of shadow confrontation. Most of our self-sabotaging behaviors are weeds with incredibly deep taproots. You can cut the top of a thistle off, but if you don't turn the soil and get to the root, it will be back in a week. Why do we procrastinate? It is rarely about being lazy. Usually, when we plough that thought, we find a root of perfectionism, a fear that if we try and fail, it will mean we are worthless. Why do we stay in toxic relationships or habits? Perhaps there is a root of undeservingness buried deep in the compacted soil of our childhood. The modern lifestyle industry often encourages us to just cover up the weeds. We use affirmations, aesthetic morning routines, and good vibes only, like a layer of decorative mulch. But mulch on top of weeds just makes the weeds stronger. Old field wisdom demands that we get the plough out. We must be willing to be uncomfortable. We must be willing to look at the ugly parts of our psyche, the envy, the resentment, the fear, and bring them to the surface. Ploughing isn't something you do once and forget. It is a seasonal necessity. To break a bad habit, you must perform the deep turn. This means sitting with the craving or the urge to sabotage, and instead of fighting it, you ask it, what are you bringing to the surface? When the earth is turned, it smells of minerals and ancient things. When you finally admit the truth behind your self-sabotage, there is a similar scent of relief. The truth, however heavy, is always lighter than the lie you've been carrying. If you travel through the older parts of the world, the countryside of Yorkshire, the islands of Greece, or the mountains of Portugal, you will see stone walls. These walls are marvels of rural engineering. They are built without mortar, held together only by gravity and the careful placement of one stone upon another. These walls serve two purposes. They keep the good in, the livestock, the moisture, the fertile soil, and they keep the bad out, the predators, the wind, the erosion. This is the wisdom of environmental architecture. The biggest lie of the 21st century is that you can willpower your way out of a bad environment. We think that if we are strong enough, we can sit in front of a bowl of candy and not eat it, or have our phone next to our bed and not check it. But the rural ancestor knew better. They knew that if you leave the gate open, the sheep will wander. It is their nature. Self-sabotage is often just our livestock wandering off because we didn't build a wall. We are trying to use a mental muscle, willpower, that tires easily, instead of using a physical structure, the wall, that never gets tired. To break a habit, you must become a stonemason. You must look at your daily life and ask, where is my wall missing? If your habit is digital distraction, your wall might be a physical timed locker for your phone. If your habit is negative self-talk, your wall might be a rule that you never speak to yourself before having a glass of water and 10 deep breaths. If your habit is overspending, your wall might be deleting your credit card info from your browser. These aren't crutches. They are mura di sasso. They are the structures that allow the field to remain a field rather than becoming a wasteland. The strength of the wall comes from its weight and its placement. You build it stone by stone, one small boundary at a time. There is a romanticized view of farming that focuses only on the planting and the harvest. But the reality of rural life is the cura annua, the daily, mundane, often boring care of the land. It is the checking of the fences, the pulling of a single weed, the clearing of a stone. Modern self-improvement is obsessed with the grand gesture. We want the 30-day transformation, the total life overhaul, the new year, new me, EPUB. We treat our lives like a reality TV show renovation, but in the old field wisdom, the grand gesture is actually a form of self-sabotage. When you try to change everything at once, you are putting a massive amount of stress on your soil. You are demanding that the land produce a harvest it isn't ready for. When the land inevitably fails to meet that impossible demand, you give up. You say, "I'm just not a person who can be healthy, productive, happy." The word husbandry comes from the old words for house and dweller. It means to manage with care and economy. To break a bad habit, you don't need a revolution. You need husbandry. You need the small tending. The small tending is the 5-minute ritual. It is the decision to do just one thing right. In the rural world, if you see a weed, you pull it then and there. You don't wait for weeding day. Similarly, if you catch yourself in a self-sabotaging thought, you correct it then and there. You don't wait for your next therapy session or the start of a new week. Soil doesn't become fertile overnight. It takes years of adding compost, leaves, and manure. Breaking a bad habit follows the same timeline. Every time you choose the better action, even if it's small, you are adding a layer of nutrients to your mental soil. Eventually, the soil becomes so rich that the bad habit can no longer survive there. It's not that you quit the habit, it's that you outgrew it. You became a different kind of land. One of the most profound causes of self-sabotage in our era is the refusal to rest. We live in a culture of perpetual noon, where we are expected to be in constant bloom. We look at influencers and high performers, and we think that if we aren't crushing it every day, we are failing. But the old fields tell a different story. In ancient agriculture, there was the mandatory practice of the fallow. Every 7 years, or sometimes every other year, a field was left completely unplanted. To the ignorant observer, a fallow field looks like a waste of space. It's just dirt and wild grasses. But beneath the surface, a miracle is happening. The soil is breathing. It is rebalancing its nitrogen levels. It is recovering from the theft of the previous harvests. When we don't allow ourselves a fallow period, true rest, true boredom, true disconnection, our subconscious mind realizes that we are depleting the soil. To protect the long-term survival of the organism, the subconscious forces a fallow period. We call this burnout, lack of motivation, or self-sabotage. Have you ever noticed that you sabotage yourself most when you are closest to a big goal? That's often because your inner farmer is terrified. It knows that if you reach that goal, you'll just demand more from the land, and the land is already exhausted. The procrastination is actually a strike. Your soul is refusing to work until it gets some rest. To break the cycle of self-sabotage, you must build fallow periods into your life voluntarily. This means the daily fallow, 30 minutes of no input, no podcasts, no music, no scrolling. Just sitting on the porch of your mind. The weekly fallow. One day where you produce nothing and achieve nothing. The seasonal fallow. A week every few months where you step away from your main crop, your career or primary goal. When you prove to your subconscious that you will allow it to rest, it will stop sabotaging you to get that rest. You are creating a contract of trust with your own nature. In the end, why do we do all this? Why plow the mind, build the stone walls, and honor the fallow? We do it for the harvest. In rural wisdom, the harvest is not just about getting stuff. It is a communal celebration of alignment. It is the moment when the effort of the farmer and the generosity of the earth meet. When you break a bad habit, you aren't just not doing something bad. You are freeing up that acreage of your mind to grow something beautiful. Remember the worn path we spoke of at the beginning, the one that chooses you. As you practice these rural concepts, a fascinating thing happens. The old path, the one of self-sabotage, starts to get overgrown. Because you aren't walking it anymore, the grass starts to return. The thistles grow over the entrance. It becomes harder to walk that path than it is to walk the new one. Meanwhile, the new path, the path of discipline, self-love, and presence, becomes smooth and easy. This is the goal. Not perfect willpower, but a perfectly worn path. You eventually reach a state where being the person you want to be is the path of least resistance. There is a dignity in the old rural way of life. There is a sense of stewardship. You don't own the land, you belong to it, and you are responsible for it. When you look at your life through this lens, self-sabotage isn't a sin, it's a management issue. It's an opportunity to become a better steward of the incredible, fertile, and mysterious gift that is your life. Breaking bad habits is not a war, it is a reconciliation. It is about returning to the wisdom of the old fields and realizing that you are both the gardener and the garden. You are not broken when you sabotage yourself. You are simply a landscape that has been neglected, overworked, or left unprotected. We have explored the geography of the soul, the necessity of the deep turn through ploughing, the architecture of the stone wall, and the holiness of the fallow period. These are not just habits. They are a way of being. They are the old field wisdom that has sustained humanity for millennia. I want to leave you with a specific, actionable task. We call it the soil test. Today, find 15 minutes of total silence. No phone, no distractions. Take a piece of paper and draw a circle. This is your field. Identify the thistle. Write down your most stubborn habit in the center. Check the hardness. Ask yourself, what area of my life feels compacted or hard right now? Is it your health, your finances, your creativity? Find the root. Write down one fear or shadow that might be feeding that thistle. X. I'm afraid if I succeed, I'll lose my friends. Place the first stone. Identify one physical boundary, one stone wall, you can build today to make that habit 1% harder to do. The transformation of a field is a slow process, but it is an inevitable one if the gardener is faithful. I want to hear from you. Which of these concepts, the ploughing, the stone wall, or the fallow, did you need to hear most today? Leave a comment below. Let's create a community of internal gardeners, sharing our harvests and our struggles. If this deep dive into ancestral wisdom helped you see your struggles in a new light, please give this video a like. It helps our seeds reach more people who are tired of the modern hustle. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell to join us for more journeys into the intersection of lifestyle, minimalism, and ancient wisdom. Remember, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Go tend your field.